Hi, everyone. My name is Federico, and this is Cuttle's weekly live stream. I here from LA, where it's also a little bit hot. I saw someone from South Carolina in the chat. So to get back to the streams, I was recently admiring the work of that Bonnie has been posting. Bonnie from CBCO Designs. And one particular thing I like is that she makes really elegant use of the warp text. So here are a few examples, like this shark tag, where uses kind of like the outline of a shark, and then you can type things here. And then the warp text just kind of like accommodates to it. I really like it. The rocket tag is another example of that. You can see how she used this kind of simple shape here to accommodate it. I particularly like the dinosaur because it looks like a shape that would be difficult to to put some text in it, but she managed really nicely, and I think it looks really good. And then the butterfly tag is really cool also because she just used half of a wing over here. And I thought it was really clever. So I'm not going to replicate any of Bonnie's designs. My goal is to kind of show you how the warp text can be used. And so I'll show you some ideas of how that's done. So if we kind of analyze, we can always go and open these designs in the Cuttle editor. And we can always come and see how they were done. So for example, here, let's see the top. Here we can see how, if we double click into it, you can see the shape of the warp text, which kind of follows the outline of the shark. Yeah, Bonnie is in the chat. Yeah, I was saying that I really admire the way you use warp text. So it's kind of like showing the different versions. So yeah, I'm not going to replicate any of Bonnie's designs, of course. I just want to kind of show you how the warp text can be used. So the rocket tag also, let's analyze it a little bit. I'm going to open it. If we look at the top, you can also see how the shape got well done scored over here. Let's look at the warp text. So here we can see the shape. So I wanted to show you how to use the warp text with a few examples. So I have a new project here. Let me delete these. So the basic idea is this. Let me show you. To use the warp text, you can search for warp here or text. Let's search for text. And then there is a whole category called warp text. Each one of these has like certain different ways to use it. So for example, let's look at these. Let's look at the stretched one. So if I drag it and place it here, this one lets you, type any text here. And then the different parameters of the stretch can be seen right here. So I can like bend the top, bend the right separately, and bend the bottom. So these are kind of like somewhat fixed. For example, this arched one or the waved. Let's place the waved one in here. We delete the previous one. Oop, I deleted the one I didn't mean. So for example, the waved also has kind of like set parameters. If we look at it here, it simply has waviness. So you can increase or decrease the waviness. So that could be useful. And then you can use the mirror where it just kind of makes the sort of fish-like shape. The custom one, let's delete this one. The custom one is a little different in that you use the custom this way. When you drag it in place, what you have to do, well, one thing you can do is change the shape, the sort of proportions of the rectangle that contains the text. Like this, you can of course rotate it like that. But if you double click into the shape, then you start editing the paths. And so here we can move the points, for example, the anchor points like these. We can bend the paths, and we can do other things to create that kind of very custom shape. So if you're new to editing paths, I think I wanna give you like a quick kind of primer. So you saw how I was editing that text, but I'm gonna show you like a simplified example. So whenever we drag the text, we end up with a rectangle that is like 2 inches by 0.5 initially. So I'm just gonna grab a rectangle, and if I were to try and edit this rectangle, if I double click on it, you'll see that I get this message that says to edit the anchors or nodes, you have to go to edit and convert to paths. So I'm gonna do that exactly. I'm gonna go to edit, and then there is this option down here, the bottom that says convert to paths. So I need to check that option, and then I can get to double click into it. And so there are a number of operations that you can do. So operation number one, you can move points. So if I select any point, it becomes blue. And then I can move it either with the mouse like these, because I'm going to call them anchors, or I can move it with the keyboard. So I can do up arrow, down arrow, or left and right. So that's kind of like way number one to edit points. You could also move multiple points at the same time. So you can like select one point, hold shift, select another point, and then they kind of move together in kind of unison. And of course, you're not limited to 2. You can move like 3 if you want. I'm holding shift to select another one. And so notice how I can move all of those. But the one I didn't select kind of stays in place, this one right here. The other thing you can do is you can bend paths. So if I hover near any path, you'll see how my mouse gets this like curvy icon. And so if I click, I can like bend it. So it's kind of like pushing it around. And it doesn't have to be from the center. You can like bend it from anywhere. So I can bend this path. I can bend it like these. I can bend it like these. So that's the other way to edit the paths. And then the kind of last way, I mean, there are other ways, but like whenever you bend a path, you'll see that I get these like handles that come out of each point. So if I click on the handle, you'll see that I can sort of edit them individually. So if I'm going to replicate that waviness, I can use the handles. So those are the basic ways that I'm going to be using for my examples. There is one last one if you want to get like more advanced, I guess. Whenever you double click an anchor, it goes between being pointy and being curvy. So if I double click this one, you'll see that it became curvy, and now I get these 2 handles that kind of edit both sides of the path. And if I double click back into it, it becomes a pointy one again. I don't think I'll be using much of these, but it might be helpful for you in the future. So there are other ways, but I don't necessarily want to go into it. I just wanted to give you like a basic kind of sense of how to edit paths. So let's try some examples of how to use the custom text. I'm going to use the emoji because it's just sort of convenient way of getting a random SVG. My first example would be the boxing glove. So I'm going to search for boxing. I'm going to place it here. It looks tiny. I'm going to make it 3 inches wide. I got it really big. And once again, I think Bonnie has like a really good eye for these designs. I don't think I'm I'm as good. So these are going to be examples of how to do certain operations. I don't think they're the greatest designs, but hopefully you'll learn something. So I got my boxing glove emoji, but I actually want to turn it into paths because I want to get rid of this shape right here. So once again, I'm going to go to edit, convert to paths. And now I can double click into it. So you see that I'm editing this path because I get this focus mode, and I can select this shape in the middle, and I'm going to just delete it because that's where I want to place my text. And I don't want a fill. I just want to have like a red stroke because let's say that's going to be a cut. So what I want to do is place text right here on the cuff of the glove. So let's get that custom warp text right here. Let's place it roughly where it's going to go. I think the choice of font matters quite a bit. So I'm going to choose a font that that kind of looks interesting. So I'm going to do this Nopelia. I want to, I'm masking the option. So I got the Nopelia font down here. I want to show more options, and I want uppercase. I think uppercase looks better. So now for the editing part, I'm going to zoom in. And so first I'm going to just get the rectangle to kind of fit the shape that I'm trying to fit things in. So I'm going to start by stretching it. I want some overlap, and then I'm going to double click into it so I can start editing those paths. So I think the first one is, yeah, I want to like bend this top section to match that curve. So I'm going to bend it like this. Then I'm going to bend the bottom section to also kind of match the curve. And I think maybe I'm way down. So I'm going to click outside of the editing pad so I can like move it up. I'm just going to move it with my keys. So I want some overlap. Let's double click into it. Let's bend it a bit more. And I think that looks good. Maybe I'll move this point over here and this point over here. So you can get the sense that it's more about like moving things around. But I think the editing here was minimal. I just wanted it a little curvy at the bottom and at the top. And now to kind of finish it, I'm going to select the text. Maybe I just want this stroke. And I think the most effective in this case tends to be well done score. So I'm going to apply the well done score just to check it. So yeah, now we get that. Let's see. Let's have a name like Mia. Looks good. So that was my first example. Just a glove with a little kind of like arched text. Let's try another example. I want to show you a couple of examples before I kind of go into the whole template making thing. So let's try a new one with the. So I'm gonna grab an emoji. I'm gonna choose this shirt, the running shirt, with a sash. So I think like that's an interesting shape. Let's make it 3 inches. Because the sash has that kind of like angled shape and kind of very subtly curved. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to convert it to paths. Might be unnecessary in this case, but I'm just going to do it for. Let's change the stroke to red. All right, so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to grab that custom text that warped. I'm going to place it kind of roughly where I want it. I'm going to use those fonts I chose before, Nopelia. I think you can find better fonts when you do your own designs. I'm just being consistent here. And I actually like the uppercase always. All right, so with this one, I'm going to start by rotating. So I'm just going to rotate to roughly match the angle of the sash. I'm going to stretch to also roughly match the length. And now I'm going to double click into it so I can edit those paths. So the first thing I want to do is sort of move the points so they kind of match the points of the shirt. So something like this, like a little diagonal to match the arm cutoff. So I'm going to move the other point like this. And the curvature in this one is really subtle, but I think we can kind of match it. So I'm going to just bend that pad a little bit and bend this top pad a little bit, just to kind of roughly get the shape of the sash. And I'm going to click out of it. I suppose if you were to cut this one, you might want to engrave it, because this is all cut. This is all going to cut as let me give it like a more subtle color here. Yeah, like say if you want to cut that out of wood, then you might want to engrave this one. Let's make it black. Still similar example in the in the vicinity. And let's try it with. So yeah, I think this one looks good. Kind of sells the sash idea. Let's try another one that is a little bit more elaborate. Let me create a new component. Another example I was thinking like would be like a retro joystick. I'll grab that emoji. I'm gonna search for joystick. Let's make it about 3 inches. I don't know. I thought this one would look cool because you can like get some text that is like angled on one of the faces. I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna go to edit, then convert to paths. I'm gonna double click into it because this shape is just gonna be floating there when you cut it. So I'm just gonna get rid of it. The button, I'm sad to delete the button because that it's kind of cool, but anyway, goodbye arcade button. So this should cut as a single shape now. So what I was thinking is that I wanted to place some text along this face. So I'm gonna trace the face first. So what I can do is grab that pen tool, and with the pen tool, I can just drop anchors where I want them. So I'm just gonna hit all the corners of this face. So this corner, you'll see that they just should kind of snap to the corners, snap to the corner, snap, and snap. So now I have like this separate shape that kind of follows that kind of isometric. It's a good idea. The arcade button, I could just move it over. Maybe I'll do that. But let's continue with this face. So the face, now I have kind of like the outline of the face, and I want to make it smaller, so it's kind of like a frame. So I'm gonna go to modify and contract. So that gives me the ability to just kind of create the frame where I want it. So that's where I want to place the text. I may even make this white, give it a white fill. Yeah, it looks good. So to make this into a usable shape, I need to like flatten it, so it cuts as a single shape. Let's bring back that like arcade button. Let's make it gray, fill. I don't know. Did I mess it up here? Something like that. Yeah. So now I'm just gonna flatten all of these. I'm gonna apply the flatten modifier over here, which turns everything into a single kind of cuttable shape. Let's make it red. And now let's get that warp text. So once again, I'm gonna search for warp text. Get my custom warp text. I wanna go back to the font I've been using. I don't know, maybe there's a more appropriate font for this kind of video game looking thing. Uppercase. And now let's edit the paths. So let me just move it closer to the corner here. So I'm gonna double click into it so I can edit those paths. And in this case, I'm just gonna move the points to match that shape, that kind of guide shape that I just kind of made. So I'm gonna match this point, then match this point here, then match this point. So that kind of, that hopefully kind of makes it that sort of warped isometric look. And perhaps, because I want the letters to overlap the whole, I still have that path that I created over here with the contract, so I could contract it a bit further. So now the letters overlap the hole I created. And now I could just apply the well done score as is right here. Yeah, that should work. So anyway, that was my sort of quick 3 examples of like different ways of using the warp text. So I got this kind of like curvy diagonal and this sort of like isometric look. Let's do one last example as a sort of more template-like situation. Also, I don't think this example is not going to be the best, but like, let's try it out. So I'm going to create a new one, a new document. And the other one I was thinking would be like a paw. So I'm just going to use this paw outline. And I'm going to do 3 inches again. And so this one I'm going to be more, I'm going to divide it into different components. So let's say I'm going to call this the shape. And I don't need to, I could leave it as an emoji. But I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna convert it to paths so it doesn't mess with me later on. Let's make the stroke red. And so now I wanna just do another component. I'm gonna call it the front layer. And so that front layer is gonna have that shape plus the name on top. Why did I do pink? I don't know. I meant to do red. So let's get that custom warp text. I'm gonna place it here. I'm going fast in this one because maybe now that we kind of get the sense of the warped, then I want to like kind of turn it into a template. So that's something I've done in the past. So okay, once again, I'm gonna make it roughly the size of the shape that I want to match. So I kind of want to match that inner paw, or like that, the palm, the central pad. And then I also want something that, a font that works. I think this Nopelia works so well because it already has like really curvy profiles. So when you bend it a bunch, let's make it uppercase. When you bend it a bunch, it doesn't seem like you're messing too much with it. So let's double click into it. And I want to kind of edit things so they kind of match that pad. So I'm just going to move the points to start with down a tiny bit. And let's bend it up. I'm looking for the letters to overlap a bit. Let's bend this one a bit like so. And let's bend this one. So just like a sort of oval kind of situation. Oh, one thing you should know about using warp text, this particular one, the shape that you create needs to be only 4 anchors. If you add another anchor by double clicking anywhere, like for example, if I wanted to add an anchor here, you'll see that the text disappears. Because the way this one works is that it wants 4 anchors to do the warping. So I could get like fancier shapes this way, but actually currently I can't. So I need to delete this anchor. So keep it 4. In case you accidentally double click into it, then this might happen. So you should know. Let's keep it 4 anchors. And oh, that messed with me. So, okay. You get the idea. I think you could do a better job. So now that I have these as the front layer, I can actually go ahead and apply. Oh, let's extract the parameters. So I want to extract the text parameter. So this one right here. When I go to edit to extract parameter, I'm going to call it the name. I want to move that parameter to the project. The next one I want to do is extract the font. So I'm going to extract this parameter. There is my font over here. I'm going to move that parameter to the project so we can let people choose the options. Let's apply the well done score. And then go to modify, well done score. So that should be my front layer. Now I want a back layer. So let's create another component. I'm going to call that one the back layer. So the back layer is going to have that same shape, but I don't want to cut those holes. So I'm going to remove all the holes from the back shape. I'm going to go to modify and remove holes. And then there are many ways to add holes to a project. I think the ones that Bonnie does sometimes are way simpler. Like for example, I like that the dinosaur tag right here just has the hole on the backer. So it's very simple because it's just a circle. I'm gonna choose a slightly more complex way of doing it. This is my paw project. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give this a fill now that I removed the holes, and I'm gonna add a circle, and then I'm gonna give this circle the size that I want my hole to be, 0.19. And now I'm gonna give the stroke some thickness, and then I'm gonna change the alignment of the stroke to the outside. That way, the scale of the hole is always gonna be the size of the inner hole right here. Let's make it red as well. And then I'm just gonna move it down a tiny bit so it touches the other. Perhaps it could use a white fill just in case. And now to join those two shapes, I'm gonna flatten everything. So I'm gonna select, go to modify, add the flatten. And so now I have my back layer, and I can just select stroke result. And just to finish it off, we want to have like a sort of preview of the way this is going to look. So I'm going to create another component. I'm going to call it the preview. And so the preview is going to have the back layer in place. Let's give it some color. So let's add some fill. Let's give it like an attractive color that looks kind of wood-like, something like these. Perhaps the stroke black looks better for previews. And then it's going to have the front layer on top. And so now you can see that and let's give it a fill as well. Let's try that kind of pale pink. Something's not working here great with the... So now you can see that perhaps the way I chose to do this hole is because I wanted it like on the layer below, but that's just a choice that seemed to work with the paw. And then let's add the cut file, because now this one is just gonna be my preview. And now let's create the cut file by using that auto layout. So auto layout. And so with auto layout, what we can do is add the names of any of the components that we used. So let me delete the existing ones. I definitely need to close those brackets. So I just need to add the front layer and the back layer, and press play. So now those are my two components. And then finally on the README, I want to add those components. So I'm going to create the preview first. There it is. And then I want to add the download one, so the cut one. So I'm going to add component, select cut. And so the little arrow here signifies that is the one that gets downloaded. And one final fancy trick, it's going to take me 1 minute. So whenever you hit download, this takes the name of the project, so paw, and the name of the component, in this case, cut. But sometimes it's kind of nice to add the name that you typed here. So if you're going to make multiples, then you get like nicely named files. So in order to do that, the trick here is to go to the cut file, to the cut component, and it has to be inside of the cut component specifically. So we create a new parameter, and we call it Filename started with underscore, sorry. So Filename, And here we need to type it in a specific way. It needs to be like backtick and paw. And if I were to do just that, then it's going to name it paw every time you download. So let's check it. So see that it says use paw because that's what I typed. But what I really want is to reference one of the existing parameters. So I'm going to just create a little dash. And to reference one of the existing parameters, you type something like this with brackets. And then you stick the name of this parameter. So name goes right here. So I'm going to type name. Name. Here we go. So now you can see that it immediately fills it with the name that I typed right there. If I type Federico, it fills it right there. And whenever I hit download, then it's going to fill it right here in the download. Yeah, that was the last trick I wanted to show you. And specifically, it needs to be in the file. Sorry, specifically, it needs to be a parameter in the cut component in order for it to work. All right. Thank you so much for coming and watching and giving me suggestions in the comments. I hope this gives you some ideas to create text, to create interesting projects with this kind of warp text inspired by Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie, for your cool work. All right. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.